Hello and welcome back, everybody. Let's get right into today's training session. What we're going to be talking about today is the look and feel of an event and how to create that moment at the event where it's talked about after. We're also going to talk about the student experience and how to create an experience that really gets them involved into what you're going to be teaching. And again, the key thing is that we don't have a lot of time to teach financial literacy, so we want to make sure that we're doing it in an effective way, in a way that's memorable to the audience. Up until this point, we've laid down the foundation, those critical components needed to teach personal finance. We discussed the psychology of money, measurement techniques, various teaching techniques, and ways to assess your audience. Today, we're going to drill down into those very specific areas again to give you a clear framework to follow. The goal is to give you confidence so you enter the classroom, you are able to recall and implement what you've learned. Before I get into that, we're going to be talking about creating an overall experience, because it's not just what you do in front of the classroom that matters, it's how you design this experience for the students or whoever you're teaching. This is a critical aspect of ensuring your event is memorable and makes a lasting difference in the lives of others. Now, here at the NFEC, we've been highly recognized for creating events, promotions, and campaigns that really create an impactful experience with the end user. We'll be covering a few of those here later as well. Most of us teaching this subject do not have the luxury of hosting semester or year-long courses. With a shorter course time, it is vitally important we create a memorable experience that they can think about when they leave your event. With that said, let's get right into creating a student experience. How do you create a program that will connect with your audience and will make an impact that you desire and that will also help you achieve some other goals as well? We're going to start off by talking about program design.
A critical element of program design is understanding your audience. You heard this 50 times already. Creating a program that connects with them, not only what you're teaching in front of the class, but how the volunteers treat the audience, the mailers that go out, the different connection points you have with your audience during, before, and after your presentation. The actual language you're using is important as well when you're teaching the class. All of these things should be considered when you're doing your program design. Now, for us, the first thing we do is understand our audience. Who are they? What's their age group? What type of music do they like? What are those things that may connect with them? And really, we want to get a solid understanding of them on many levels. We could do through many ways: surveys, informal discussions. Maybe if you have people that know this audience or have an experience reaching the exact participants you're going to be talking with, bring them in as advisors or something to help you understand them on a deeper level as well. I personally like that one-on-one interaction with potential participants. Anytime that you're able to have that FaceTime with them, either a phone, online, or any time you can connect with them personally, it's going to help you better understand who you're serving. Once you have those answers in your head, then you want to create a draft of the program and really pay close attention to those critical elements, things like language, the look of the event, the feel, the flow, the usability, the alignment with standards, and their interest. All of these things we need to take into consideration. So we're not just talking about the event in the training itself, but also the material we're going to be teaching, the marketing pieces, the volunteers, every single element that the participant comes in contact with, we want to think through ahead of time. The goal is to make sure everything fits synergistically together so there's some consistency and there's a solid brand built behind your program. A couple examples. Let's say you had an event geared toward teenagers. Well, you really want to call that teaching financial responsibility because it doesn't connect with them. Yet, if you wanted to create an event that was fun, high-paced, played music, and really taught them, money in a different way, that title would not fit at all. You want to make sure even your title of your event is aligned with the overall program and the outcomes they'll experience. Also, let's take a look at adults. Let's say you're working with adults that are planning for retirement. They're beyond a lot of the foundation. Now they're planning for retirement. We don't want to have financial recovery style topics in there or cater to that audience if we're looking to serve a different group of people. And same thing with kids. Hey, kids, we need to have some fun activities, a lot of movement, things like that. So you want to make sure when you're thinking about your programming, you're thinking about the audience you're serving, what's important to them, and thinking of your program as an overall brand. We want to deliver this brand in a very cohesive way that adds to your professionalism, shows you really thought through this event and program, and it gives you a really competitive advantage compared to what the average financial educator is doing out there.
The program scheduling is also important. Many think it's a little detail, but it makes a big difference. You want to do surveys. You want to ask what dates, what times to host the event. But we learned the hard way through the School of Hard Knocks. I remember we were doing this event for an apartment complex, and they wanted to do it on a Saturday. We're like, okay, great. We'll fly out there, do this full day event on a Saturday. And really, nobody showed up. I mean, there was a very small audience, which was really unusual because we did a lot of marketing, a lot of promotions. We had giveaways, food, all that stuff. The things that attract people to the event we did. We've been successful in the past. It's always worked, but today it didn't. And what we found out, it was just simply the day that everybody plays soccer. I mean, that was soccer day. All the families were out playing soccer. That was the day they all got together within that community. But we could have taken that initiative because whatever the program is, the success falls on us. So I want you to take personal responsibility for any program you do. You want to elevate yourself to a professional level, and you will need to fill in the blanks when people don't have the same drive or concern for making it the best program possible. However, if we would have done a simple survey instead of the promotions first and said, hey, what day works best for you? It could have been a Sunday. We could have hosted it on a Sunday and have had a much better response and reached more people effectively. And also, they'd have known, hey, they're probably looking at us like saying, okay, well, these people don't know that we have a soccer on Sunday. Some things you'll learn the hard way. I hope you could take out our learning experiences and never have to face that with your own events. All of these things, understanding the audience is critical. Deciding on the schedule of the program is also critical. You want to maximize the attendance. You want to create drafts and get their feedback. We talked about this before. Creating a program with somebody is really critical. And you want to start to think about the language, the flow, the field, all that fun stuff that goes into creating a program. We're going to dig deeper here into the next level. What type of event do you want? And we're not going to really talk about the educational piece right yet, although that's always critical because you want to make sure that whatever you're teaching, the format you're teaching will flow through the entire event. But the first thing we want to start to do is to think about the event design. Now, you can create a very great environment at a very low cost. And later, I want to show you two videos. One was a production that cost us $40,000 plus, and another was a production that cost us less than a few $100s. And you're going to see that we got really different feedback from both. Great media coverage from both, great sponsorship requests from both. Both were successful, but on the opposite sides of the spectrum. Right now, we're going to be talking about the look and feel first. Later, we're going to be talking about the education integration into that, and then we're going to be really drilling down on many of these topics that we talked about the last few weeks into this time frame. We talked about a lot of these topics on a broad perspective. We're going to be drilling down into the specifics now. And what we're talking about here is creating a visual experience. We're creating an experience with the event, starting with the visual, moving on to the auditory, the hearing, getting into the touch, the taste, yes, the taste of an event, the smell, and the feeling. Whenever you're hosting an event, consider these 6 areas in your planning.
Visuals are critically important. We want to create a well thought out brand that is clear on the visuals we choose. What is that visual impression of your brand that you want to leave people with? Before people enter the room, you should create some nice banners so people know exactly where to go. This is the first impression of your live event, so you want to make sure you demonstrate professionalism and have good-looking banners and other materials. You can get affordable banners at places like halfpricebanners.com or any other sites out there that create it. A big part of the visuals is making sure your event is clearly marked. I've gone to events on several occasions where I wandered around looking for the venue. This can be very frustrating, and it also displays that you are not very well prepared. When someone walks into the room initially, what is that initial impression you want them to see? I personally always like to start the visual impression with a friendly face, somebody greeting them, welcoming them, and also some very good professional looking marketing or signs. That's really, really critical. So we want to make sure that somebody is connecting with that person the moment that they enter the door. It could be you, or it could also be a volunteer. Besides the signage and a friendly face, you want to make sure the room looks good and looks clean. I can't tell you how many rooms I've cleaned because I walk in and I'm like, oh no, there's clutter everywhere. I'll hide stuff. I'll move trash cans out of the room. I'll set up drapes and put them out over the tables because it just gives the dynamic of the room a whole different feel. And things like that are not a huge investment. They're not very expensive, but it gives a good feel. Instead of those hard-looking plastic-style tables, you have nice drapery that are there and are being used, and it looks very professional. Things like that truly don't have to cost a lot of money and truly do make a difference when you're talking about the dynamic of creating a successful event. Also, something else to think about is having a PowerPoint running, having slides running so that there's a visual or something for them to look at and become initially engaged before the event kicks off. These are great ways to prepare individuals before you begin your live event.
Let's talk about the auditory piece. Having music that matches your audience is important. So let's picture this. You walk into a room, you have some music playing in the background. It gives that feeling as you walk into the room. They see a nice PowerPoint on the board or some other nice visual. They have a clean room. They're greeted by a friendly volunteer. They see some nice tablecloths or some nicely organized student guides. You've cleared out the clutter, so you make that great appearance right away. You may think I'm harping on this a little bit, but I've been to a lot of financial literacy events, and I'll tell you what, I'm actually shocked sometimes when I walk in and see what's going on there. There's clutter here, there's disorganization here, nobody greets me, there's no music, there's a blank PowerPoint slide. Nothing tells me that they're a professional instructor. Also, another critical element with the auditory piece is to train your volunteers so they're sharing the same messaging when people enter the room and they have that same customer service experience as they're connecting with your organization. The last thing I want to touch on is really important, and that's to have somebody introduce you. It gives you instant credibility because they're bragging about you from a third party. It's not coming from you, it's coming from a third party. And really, really important, when you have somebody else introduce you, you want to write out your introduction. Have it written down and tell them, read this verbatim, because that's how you want to be introduced. When I first started personally in the personal finance space and giving presentations, I had some horrible introductions. Not only did they lead into it very bad, it didn't build up any excitement, but they mispronounced my name and different things like that. So now no matter what event I do, I always have my entire introduction written out and my phonetic spelling of my name there as well. You know, before I was called Shore, Short, and they would never get Shorb right. So they always misspelled that. So I made sure I had the phonetic spelling there. And also another key thing is make sure that it's aligned with your target audience. I probably have 10 different introductions right around there for the different audiences I serve. One when I'm talking to educators like yourself, one when I'm talking to kids, teens, adults in recovery, adults in retirement planning. So for instance, let's look at my adult introductions. When I'm being introduced to adults that are going through financial recovery, that introduction shares my personal story of challenges I overcame. So immediately they have a connection with me. I'm not like coming in like a know-it-all. Hey, I never went through that. follow my lead. No, I've been there. I've experienced the pain of going through financial recovery type situations. I understand where you're coming from. They get that sense even before I hit the stage. With the retirement planning topics, when we're talking to that type of audience, it's a completely different introduction. So it's really important you have multiple introductions that are specifically tailored to the audience you want to serve.
You may be asking, why do you include smell? Well, I've been to many events where I've walked into the room, it smells dark, it smells danky, it stinks. The hotel room is at the bottom of the basement area and they smell. I've walked into many classrooms where they smell too. So if you don't have a choice of your venue, take care of the smell by bringing in some air freshener. It does create that impression initially. Another important part of smell is if you're serving food. Don't let the participants smell it during your presentation. I've seen students immediately lose their interest and focus on the smell of freshly delivered pizzas. Just a little distraction can keep your audience from picking up on a vital piece of knowledge. That leads us into taste. For longer events, you may want to bring food or snacks. If your event is over 3 hours, you want snacks at least for sure. For any event, always have water available. If you have any food there, be sure to plan when you want to let them eat. Some of our colleges offer food as an ethical bribe to get students to participate. In these cases, you will want to wait to give them their food until the end. Let's talk about touch. How do you make your audience comfortable and get them involved? First, it is important to make sure the chairs are comfortable. This is especially important for longer events. Have pens and paper available for them to take notes. A lot of the touch piece is built into our curriculum. These engagement pieces are really critical on how you can reach out and touch your audience. How will you engage that hands-on type of learner? That's going to be very important. I hosted a class where I brought out ping pong balls. They couldn't ask questions. They had to throw a ping pong ball at me to get my attention. So again, little things that you could do. Very, very cheap. Get creative. If you're going to do something where they throw things at you, make sure it's not too hard. And also, if you give out noisemakers or giveaways, make sure not to do that at the beginning of the event. Make sure that anything that's going to distract them, you give that at the end of the event.
The feeling. It's really critical that you have a cohesive feeling that's in there. How the volunteers interact with the audience, how you interact with the audience, the overall feel of the show. Do you want something dynamic, fast-paced, moving? Well, make sure everything's that way. Do you want something maybe more thoughtful, taking time, maybe more introspective? Maybe that's your audience. Well, create an event that fits the needs of your audience. Everything boils down to the audience. And if you've done your homework before, you understand their needs. You understand what they're looking for. You create the program with them, and you take those essential steps initially. Your event will be successful. One critical aspect on that. If you're using volunteers, make sure you train them. You want to start the education process the moment they walk through the door. And you want to learn about your audience on a deeper level the moment they walk through the door. So what do you want your volunteers to ask? What do you want them to find out? What do you want them to convey? Make sure you train your volunteers. It's so critical. And many times the volunteer and the person putting on the event have different personalities. It's like night and day. It doesn't give that cohesiveness, so it's really important to train your volunteers so they can deliver the material that you want, or should say, the message you want to say effectively.
Let's move on here to the next. I'm going to show you a couple videos. The first video is going to be at one of our events called Money X Live, and you're going to see right there this type of high-paced, fast energy movement that create through this event. The next event we're going to show you is one that we do for our veterans. Completely different. But let me explain our goal for each of these events. Money X Live, we had over 1,100 people at our first event. It brings out celebrities, sports stars, bands, DJs, while we teach them about money and personal finance. We did this at a big concert venue. The goals of it were to reach a lot of people, make a lot of noise in the financial literacy industry, help raise awareness and get media attention out and bring out the people that we know could be influential. Also, it was to build solid relationships with our sponsors and introduce us to the market in a way that made a splash. We were looking to raise funds, obviously, and awareness. That's what we're looking to do with this event, a very high production, high end. We have the entertainment coordinators of the Lakers that produces it for us. Really, really great show.
All right, so what are you looking forward to in today's event?
Everything.
Everything?
Yep, everything.
That's a lot.
I want to entrepreneur. I want to own my own business, so I'm hoping that this can help further my education in it.
How'd you hear about this event?
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah?
A little knowledge about money and a little.
Yeah.
I like the name, Money X
Money
Live. It makes it kind of a little interesting,
Right.
live.
This season, Money X Live edutained over 3,000 people across the country with dynamic performances and practical financial wisdom. Money X Live Southern California started the tour off with a bang and served youth from over 30 nonprofit organizations. NBA champ, actor, and wellness expert John Sally shared his journey with a captivated audience.
I cleaned up Donut Town. I went to work with my mother at the dry cleaners and at the caterer. At this point in time, I understand the value of working. At this point in time, better than any time, I understand the value of my money.
Movie star and producer Wilmer Valderrama passionately shared his message of opportunity.
And at the end of the day, I'm very appreciative of the opportunities I've ever had. And one of the things I want to talk to you guys is about being responsible with those opportunities. 1,100
excited attendees also got to see skateboard legends Christian Hosoi and Brian Sumner discuss their personal money management lessons. TV star Tyler Christopher and the multi-talented Chris Judd engaged the audience with their stories of overcoming financial challenges. And Jesse Bulauer's moving story motivated students to become social entrepreneurs.
Try to do something better, and help the community out,
Yeah. The founder of Money X Live, Vince Shorb, was named the leading youth financial literacy expert by the OC Register.
Everybody in here can do it. And when you do get this handle, I want you to share this information with others. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, because there's plenty of money to go around, and everybody out there deserves to live their own personal American dream.
And the crowd was energized with live acts by Kaba, Modern Legacy, and Kelly James.
So thank you all now for listening to this guy, because I love Money X Live. Money X Live.
Next stop, Seattle, Washington, where over 1,300 high schoolers were greeted with a high-energy opening. Super Bowl champion and current Seattle Seahawk Roy Lewis was on point with his message.
How many people here want to make it rain? But before the rainstorm comes, you got to put it away. You know what I mean? And that's just the real deal. You got to make it rain in your pockets and your bank accounts first.
Voted among the top 100 most influential people in music, Joey G illustrated how networking skills allowed him to do what he loves. Malcolm McCassie, MTV-made star and entrepreneur, conveys the importance of following your passions.
I didn't have anyone like Money X Live to really tell me how to make it, how to save, to go after your dreams. Really, passion is the biggest thing you guys could ever have. Meaning, if there's not meaning behind what you do, you're not going to ever do good at it.
Chad Penry, the co-founder of Money X Live, talks about planning for college and making important life decisions.
You want to feel good about yourself, do something for somebody else. When you make your life about other people, it gives your life a lot more meaning, and you get a lot more benefits from it than you'd ever realize.
Movie and TV star Randy Wayne shared how dedication is helping him achieve his career goals.
I was a busser, I was a waiter, I was a carpet cleaner, I was a swim coach, I was doing retail. I did anything I could to pay the bills while I got where I wanted to go. But see, it wasn't about the money for me. It was about the practice, because I knew that the harder I worked and the more persistent I was, the money would come.
The incredible Grand Junction community welcomed Money X Live and entertainer Chocolate Punk with open arms. The founder of the Stand Up for Financial Literacy campaign and VH1 star Serrano Kelly shared his thoughts on success.
What is the single biggest contributor to success? The amount of times that you're willing to fail.
Pro snowboarder Josh Sherman dropped some knowledge as Colorado's best dance crew, Break FX, and internationally acclaimed DJ Triple XL had the crowd moving. Wilmer Valderrama and Vince Shorb gave practical financial tips to the audience. Super Bowl champion and Sports Illustrated Player of the Year Seth Joyner shared his wisdom.
A lot of people go to college and they wind up doing something else after they get that degree. Why? Because we go through changes. We change.
but that education has given them the opportunity to get a lot of information, to expand their mind, to think critically, to think outside the box, and say to themselves, well, I started here, but this is where I really want to be. This is really what my passion is.
The Financial Literacy Community of the Year Award was accepted by Karen Troster of U.S. Bank. And Olympic bronze medalist J.J. Thomas talked about how his growing skill set led to the formation of his band, Mile High, as they closed out the show. Money X Live would like to thank all our volunteers, partners, and sponsors for their support.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, we had our veterans event. We broke this into 2 lessons. One, we did the actual event education piece, and the second, we did more of a media piece where we're giving them awards. So the education piece obviously really focused on the education. We wanted them to leave with very tangible material. Also, we wanted to raise awareness for veterans issues. We were working with nonprofit organizations, so we were trying to help them get out there. Help us get out there. Make these veterans feel good by giving them awards. We always offer complimentary events for our veterans, but we also look to raise awareness for veteran causes and those organizations that support that. We were able to do so with this event. Now, for the education portion of the event, we kept that private, but had a graduation event where we brought the media out. Media adds a lot to the whole day because when people see the camera crews, the photographers, and all that, it gets them excited. They feel it's different. It has a different energy about it. Another critical element of the Veterans event is that we did the actual educational event in June of last year. And then right before the 4th of July, we had our award ceremony. Question: why did we time it before the 4th of July? Anybody have an idea? Because the media is focused on covering things that are veteran related, military related, especially on the 4th of July. So we knew we had a much better chance of getting coverage, not only for the Financial Literacy Initiative, but also for the nonprofits we were supporting through that, and also the veterans. It was a big day. When you can present somebody an award when there's already so much emotion built up and they're starting to think about it, it's a positive reminder. Also, our veterans out there today, one of the causes I'm a big believer is raising awareness for PTSD. It's a major problem. And a lot of times, around that time of year, veterans get more, some of them get into a negative state. With this award presentation during that time, I hoped it helped them. We had a lot of conversations with them before, and one of the things, I want to break away from that just for a second and talk about how we prepared to teach veterans. Because this was a unique audience that had, a lot of our audience was suffering from PTSD. They were just trying to overcome some hurdles as far as their housing, their income, and different things like that. So they're really financially challenged. So we had to take a different approach in the training. We had to make sure that they understood that it was a secure environment. We put somebody at the back of the doors and shut the back door and let them know, hey, that's closed. You're safe. You don't have to keep turning around. So there's a lot of things that we had to do different with our veterans because they were going through that. We had to take a lot more breaks. So we spent a lot of time on learning the audience. We met with psychologists that were experts in PTSD because I really didn't know. I knew about the problems they had when they were coming back, but I really didn't know how to teach effectively when we had a group with the majority of them who were going through that trauma. So go those extra links to understand your audience. Let's play this video here. This is from KTLA, did a video show here. See again, that was nothing major that we had to do, but it made them feel good. After they received the awards, they were beaming. It was just a great ceremony. I felt rewarded after it. They felt rewarded. The nonprofit loved that the media was there. We were raising awareness. I think it was a win-win-win situation across the board. And when you're creating these events, always look for as many wins as you possibly can. So we're big believers in collaboration. So for this event, we didn't have to go out and market and do all the things to get the veterans there. We brought on a nonprofit partner that brought them to the venue. We didn't have to get a venue or spend money on renting a venue because they provided that for us.
Helping vets with their debts. Local veterans taking part in a special program designed to get them back on their feet financially. The National Financial Educators Council, along with the Veterans Foundation, handed out awards in Long Beach today for graduates of the Financial Literacy Workshop. The program helps vets that may have accumulated debt while at war. The unemployment rate for veterans exceeds 20%, so today's workshop was certainly a valuable tool in helping them prepare for the financial battles here on the home front.
When you have lack of knowledge dealing with financial issues, it tends to dampen your sense of pride. And by me attending and participating in this class, it's giving me confidence.
I thought that the information was very practical, relevant. It was easy to understand.
I learned 100 times more than I thought I would. I cannot believe you fit all that.
We came expecting it to be strictly financial management, but it turned out to be a whole lot more, and touching areas that I never even imagined that they would deal with, areas that were critical to me.
And these are graduates of the Military Money Skills Workshop.
Number one, after 2 years, training program that was requested was personal financial management.
Today's about real world money matters. Around the enemy. Well, the enemy is not having a job. So you want to use your military skills in battling the war against unemployment.
We want them to understand how money works, how to manage it, how to make it, how to hold on to it, how to spend it appropriately.
One of the visions that we have is to provide transition training for all the military troops, even active duty people, either virtual or live conferences, because even the veterans in the sands of Afghanistan and Iraq can literally go through our workshop.
The Military Money Skills Workshop has been very beneficial for me. It's completely turned my life around and given me a different outlook on money and the importance of credit. And I would just like to thank the National Veterans Foundation for offering me the scholarship to take this course.
It's really valuable, and it really goes a long way that we can partner up with a great organization such as this to help the lives of veterans.
And I hope all the vets, they can find hope like I did.
As you watch these videos, what can you use at your own event to make it something that's different, that stands out, that's appealing to the audience that you're serving? I want you to think about that during both of these videos, because our homework assignment here this week is actually to design a very affordable event that you can put on that's different, that stands out, that's unique, that creates a connection with your audience where they're motivated again to take action. Our priority are the people we're serving. We want to make sure they get the most relevant content that's going to make a lasting difference in their life. At the same time, we're thinking about how can we reach more people. That comes into the sustainability piece. Sponsorship is a big way. That's how we fund Money X Live. And the neat thing is, we look for that win-win. So we're not only creating an experience for the students, but we're also thinking about our sponsors. Where can we put their logo? Where can we plug them? Where can we make sure that whoever's coming understands that these companies were generous enough to help fund this event so they can attend it for free? You want to be different. You want to stand out in a way that's unique to you. You're starting to think about your own personal brand as an educator. Although we're teaching you how to be a more effective educator, what I want you to start to think about is your brand as an educator. How do you want to be perceived by your community? That goes to the lessons you teach, the type of events you put on, the volunteers, everything that creates the environment, that atmosphere. Let's talk about your event design. As homework, I want you guys to create an event for your target audience. Ignore that breaking up into groups part, but make sure your initial event costs under $500. It's easy to do if you're creative. Think about your collaborative approaches. People always say, well, the venue costs more than $500. Well, yeah, let's collaborate. What groups are you serving that you would like to serve already? Maybe it's a school. That's cool. If so, you already have a venue with people. You're going in. What can you bring in there that would differentiate or make it look different? If you're doing, let's say, a project-based learning activity in any of our curriculum, we have one for our kids that's a lemonade stand. You can spend a full day on this one activity that teaches them different things from budgeting to marketing to understanding the cost of things involved when they go out to make purchases. It does a lot of things. So you can actually roll up a lot of the lesson into one project-based learning activity, which makes it really neat. Be creative. Think outside the box. What's going to connect with your audience in a way that makes it fun, relevant, something different? It doesn't have to be way overboard. Like I would say, Money X Live is way over the board because we're just on a huge production level. But the Veterans one, it wasn't that big of a production, but it was actually a lot of fun to do. We got to meet some great people, collaborate with some great people. Yeah, it took some thinking about certificates and different things like that, but nothing too major. Again, it didn't cost a lot of money, and there was some great exposure. They have some huge benefits in different things. Start to think about how you can create an event that's going to connect with those that you serve, so it's memorable and lasting and different from the average financial literacy presentation. What's going to differentiate between you from the others? How will you distinguish yourself so you can actually go in there, show that you're more skilled than anybody that didn't go through this type of training? How are you going to make it an event that's talked about and also that sets yourself up, for many of you, I know you're looking to get paid in the future, so you can build your resumes, build some great testimonials, get some great media coverage, and help elevate you above the typical free speakers out there. I want you to think about this. This is going to be your homework. I would love to see what you put together, and I'm sure you're going to have some great ideas there. Put the video on pause right now and create your own event design.
We talked about events. I hope that helped you create your own event. What we're going to discuss now is actually an activity we include in every single class we teach. We always want to make sure to have a dream and lifestyle activity within every class we're teaching. As mentioned in the financial psychology section, it's critical that we as educators bridge the concept of money with the participants' lifestyle goals. For those of you utilizing our curriculum, what you'll find is that we have a lot of activities that are based on uncovering their dreams, uncovering their lifestyle needs, and uncovering their goals, because whenever we're talking about money, we want to make sure and connect that with being able to live that desired lifestyle they have pictured in their head. This is very, very critical. It's also a great way for you to learn about your audience, learn about them, what motivates them, what are they getting into in the future, where do they see their future headed. We're going to leverage their answers as we teach them about developing and building the skills they'll need in the future. The important point I want to make very clear is to make sure you have a deep understanding of their dreams and lifestyle goals in activities and build that into every class that you do. It's very critical and, again, will help you understand your audience in a meaningful way. So, a great way to learn about your audience comes through these goals and dreams activities. You're able to share your personal goals and dreams, what motivates you, what you want to see for your future, and again, you can open it up for your audience to share. Now, to recap something we mentioned before, but it's very important, never force your audience to share their goals and dreams. It's a personal issue. Let them keep that to themselves. You can ask for volunteers, and as that trust builds in your class, more and more people will want to volunteer. As you're going through these dreams and goal activities, make sure you take notes and remember who's saying what. It's really, really critical. And if you have a great memory, you may not need to take notes. Personally, for smaller classes, I don't need to, but when it gets larger classes or if there's big gaps in between the training, I like to take notes and I like to be as detailed as possible. So as I go around the class, I'll ask, say, hey, what are your, what lifestyle goals do you have? Maybe somebody raises their hand and says, oh, I want to go travel to Rio, Brazil. Great, I'll write that down. And at the same time, I'll also ask, I'll piggyback off that. I'll say, who else in here would like to travel? I'll see how many people raise their hands. If it's a large majority of the audience, I know I'm going to share that example of traveling back very often. Or if I see that person that suggested they want to travel to Rio, Brazil, kind of nodding off or I'm losing them in class, I'll bring that example up in any way I can. So if we're talking about budgeting, I'll say, yeah, when I'm budgeting to go to Rio, Brazil, and you'll see the student who shared that example will perk right back up. It gives them an immediate jolt and it gets them back engaged in the conversation. So again, as you're learning about the goals and lifestyle needs of who you're serving, not only find out of the individual participants, but ask the broader audience if they agree with that, if that's something that they want to do, so you can see what's important to the class overall. And restate those specific goals as often as possible and target out those people that you need to wake up on a regular basis. And this is a really, really critical piece. We talked about lifestyle, dreams, and goals, but be sure to incorporate that in your lessons on every class you do. So if you have a class every day with them for a week, make sure you integrate some piece of that into every class and restate the goals and dreams that they already told you about. Now, for those of you teaching adults, sometimes this dreams and goals activity is actually harder because they've been through experiences where their big dreams have shrunk. You know, when you talk to kids about their dreams and goals, you'll hear some great things, going to space, doing all these crazy, unique things because they haven't been beaten down. Many of our adults sadly have. At least they feel beaten down. And their dreams are boring now many times. Instead of, go traveling the world, they'll just say, I just want to get out of credit card debt. So that motivation for them to overcome a challenge isn't that exciting. Okay, I'm out of credit card debt. How exciting is that? So it's important for those of you working with adults, you help rekindle that fire that they had as kids. Rekindle those dreams and goals. If they say they want to get out of debt, say, okay, assume you're out of debt right now. What would you do? And again, use that forward person that we talked about in the closing techniques. Use that to get them to imagine what they would do. Say, hey, if that weight of all that debt was lifted off your shoulders and you didn't have to worry about that, in fact, you had money saved, what are some of the things that you would want to do? How would you like to live your life? And get them beyond that. Get them to share things that they're really passionate about. It may be travel, maybe spending time with family, maybe even opening a restaurant or some entrepreneurial endeavor they dreamed about since they were a kid. Help them rekindle those things that died with them after the many times they struggled through different financial circumstances. That's great, but how would it make you feel? What are the next steps? Let's set their vision further ahead instead of just taking one small picture snapshot in time. Because if it's set here and they reach it, they're going to be satisfied with those end results. But if they're starting to think bigger and get excited over some potential future outcome, maybe a trip they want to take, or maybe reaching retirement or putting their kid through school, whatever the case may be there, it's going to be important we have these big dreams set up because they'll have these bigger expectations that excite them and move them to take action.
Language and tone. This is all part of learning the audience and crafting an event that meets their needs. The dream and lifestyle activity is critical. The language and tone we use is also very, very critical. How do you want to come off? How do you want to be perceived? What is the acceptable tone for your audience? These are all very important. Also, you want to change your tone. Change how you deliver the material. Make it different, make it exciting, and different things of that nature. But language is critical. For instance, financial responsibility. What group might be motivated by becoming more financially responsible? Not many groups. It's not a big thing, and it's really not that important. Nobody really likes responsibility. It's not, even with adults. It's just not a big motivator. Another term that we use is financial security. Who might get motivated by that? Well, perhaps individuals who are older or more mature, parents, family members, things of that nature. But again, if you're working with students or teens or young adults, this is not going to be a term that's going to ignite them or get them excited about learning about personal finance. So maybe change it up and talk about something like gaining money skills, learning how to become a millionaire, and incorporate interactive learning styles like YouTube and things of that nature so that they understand there's different methods of learning as well and help to keep their interest. Other terms that we use very frequently are financial literacy, financial education, financial capability. Again, these will work for different demographics depending on who you're presenting to. If you're talking about learning about money and becoming financial literate, this might be a term more specifically used for perhaps adults. A more common term that'll be used is financial education, gaining financial education. That's something that adults will grasp and understand a little bit easier than becoming financially literate. Now, financial capability is a term that you should use as an educator when you're talking to other professionals in the field. And I want you to really start thinking about how you interact with the professionals that you're going to be talking with. Because we want to remember that our main goal is to improve the financial capabilities of those that we serve. Capability is beyond education. It's actually getting them to take action, improving their abilities to make those right choices when it comes to their personal finances. This too is very, very important. The point of this section is to get you to focus on the language you use with your targeted demographic. Pay attention as you speak to various groups and retain what resonates with your audience and dump what doesn't. Teaching personal finance is about trying different techniques, and as your experience grows, you'll have an increasing library of activities, language, and lesson plans that you know work for your audience.
Great job today. By making it to this 9th classroom session, you are proving that you're committed to your development. We thank and commend you for your efforts. The next class, we'll be discussing the NFEC's education philosophy: motivate, engage, educate, and move to action. This is full of practical tips and usable information. Keep up your pace and start the next video now or schedule it on your calendar immediately. Thanks and best wishes until I see you again on the next training video.